Hello everybody, thanks for tuning in to Hard Mod Systems. I'm George. Today's video is going to primarily be around reassembling the Restomod. The components are going to be put inside the case, and we're going to get it to just basically where we can do a startup, get it into BIOS, and make sure all the equipment's working the way it should be. This video series is going to be a little bit longer because as we watch this video near the end, you'll see where I've discovered that the case had more problems, particularly with the I/O part of it, than I knew about or had taken the time to find out about when I first started working with the case. So we're going to have to wait for some parts to come so that I can get that fixed up. But today we're going to get it built, running, and into the BIOS, and let's make sure that everything's going to be recognized by the motherboard so that we can move forward from here, and hopefully this will be the last of the problems that we find. So kick back, relax, and I hope you enjoy the video.
Installing the components on the motherboard was pretty straightforward with this guy. Everything was pretty simple. The M.2 with this board doesn't have the nice little ASUS M.2 mounting hardware. So it's back to the old standoff and screw, which is always fun to work with, the tiny little screws. The Arctic Freezer A35CO installed very easily. It's actually quite a beefy cooler. I just wish it didn't have the black plastic shroud on it, so it would have looked a little more old school, but overall I'm very happy with it. Mounting the motherboard in the case was really straightforward as well. I just had to move a few of the standoffs that were in the case to match the form factor of the motherboard. But it was really simple and it worked out really well. So now we're at the point where I'm installing the PSU, and you'll notice really, if you're paying attention, that I forgot to put the plate on the back of the PSU before I installed it. And I decided I would put the plate on after. And it was a bit of a cumbersome thing to do. The plate didn't sit perfectly flush with the case when it was attached to the PSU, so I ended up using thumbnails with longer threads that allowed me to attach it. It's not perfect, and we'll keep working on our metalworking skills to make these little parts better in the future. With the motherboard mounted and the PSU installed, it's just a matter of installing the last of the fans and doing some of the wiring loosely for now. We're not going to strap them all in until we address some of the things that we have to in the future. So this is my first opportunity as well to see the Bifrost card. It's a hefty card, and it's a little bit bigger than the Intel produced cards. It also comes with a USB stick. To be honest, I haven't even checked out to see what it is, whether it's the drivers or if it was just an additional add-on. I'm not sure, but we'll just, dig into it and figure it out later.
Well, everybody, now it's time to cover a little bit about what the latest problem is. And that's with the I/O that originally came with the case. Now, I knew there was going to be some issues because one of the USB ports was damaged, and I'll give you a little bit better view of that. There you go. There's the I/O port. Now, as you can see, this USB port is pretty badly damaged. It's actually missing the centerpiece, and it's also missing the plastic guides that insert into the USB plug when you put it in. Now, that alone wasn't a big problem because each of the USB ports has its own connector or cable. The I-1394 was already disconnected and tied up out of the way, along with this one. So I assumed they knew that
A, this one didn't have anything to plug into on the previous motherboard, and that this one was damaged and shouldn't be used. So I was hoping that the audio ports and these USB ports worked. I discovered otherwise. And when I fired up the system, the audio ports weren't coming live, and none of the USBs were coming live. So I was really upset because I really want to use this plate. I wanted to at least have the power and the audio. But the nice thing about it is, if we flip over to the other side, the power and the indicator lights is on a separate PCB. So it still works and I can continue to use it while removing the USB and the audio and the i1394. So then I got interested in finding a solution to make this more functional and not just broken crap sitting there dead. And I did some quick measuring, and this part of the I/O is very similar in size to a 3.5-inch drive bay. So I did some digging, and of course, good old Amazon came up with my solution, which is to buy a 3.5-inch add-in that will give me audio and USB. $13.94, and nobody really uses it. I haven't got a use for it anyway. And it will also upgrade it to USB 3.0. There was even some that had USB-C on the front. So my solution is going to be to cut out the plastic, which is easily removed. It's only held on by 3 screws. Take the 2 screws out, remove this PCB, and then use a Dremel to cut out the plastic and the metal on the inside, and hopefully reproduce a working input-output. So it's just going to take a little more time and a little more patience and a little more work to get this case and system to where I want it to be. Wish me luck again. Okay folks, it's time to do an initial startup on the system. As you saw in the previous or earlier part of your video, the system is put together primarily. I haven't done the cable management yet, and that's because of what I have to do to fix the front I/Os. So everything's in place though, and wired in, and it should be ready for its first boot. The system is all plugged in, keyboard, mouse, power, and display out. I've got the 4K 60 in my recording machine wired into the loop, so hopefully we can do a screen capture as we fire it up for the first time. The system's had its few little issues that I've had to work through, and it's taken me a little more time to get it to where this system can be finished off completely. So once we get everything working the way it should, we will finish up the cable management and give her a proper testing with benchmarks. So without further ado, let's fire up the test system screen capture, and we'll flip the power on, and all right, there we've got a post. Interesting, VGA card is not supported by UEFI driver. Well, I guess that's one of the growing pains of going with an Intel GPU. But at least it's displaying something, so that's a win. All right, well, let's pop into the BIOS briefly and have a quick look and see what we got. Oh, hey, isn't that a step back in time?
real fancy graphic user interface. That's cool. Does anybody else remember working in these things? Let's just quickly go over to the monitor section and check it out. CPU 40 degrees Celsius, motherboard temp plus 22. Seeing all the chassis fans. Looks good. So yeah, it's seeing the Ryzen 5 5600 6-core processor. It's seeing all the memory, so there's 32 megabytes or 32 gigabytes of memory. It's recognized it as 3200, so that's good. It's running at the speed that we want.
Well, we're going to end the video there for time reasons. I'd like to keep this closer to the 10-minute mark. There's lots more footage that I shot, but we'll bring it into the next video in the series. The biggest thing was to get the primary components installed and get it to boot into BIOS and let it run a little while to make sure it was running cool and everything was being detected. I'd like to say a special thank you to Sveta, who's been helping me with my videos. She's a real camera enthusiast, and she shot the intro to this, which is why it was done outside. And I'm looking forward to some of the more interesting shots that we can do, and the improvement to the overall quality of the videos that I make. So with that being said, thank you very much for watching. Please give us a subscribe, give us a like if you like it, give us a dislike if you didn't like it, and please leave a comment. Once again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.